In 1997, when he was 16, Evan Ramsay walked into his school in Bethel, Alaska, pulled out a 12-gauge shotgun, and murdered 2 people.
February 19, 1997. A 16-year-old walked into his Alaska high school with a shotgun hidden in his pants. Students thought it was a joke until the first shot rang out. Within minutes, 2 people lay dead, a community was shattered, and the nation watched as one of America's first modern school shootings unfolded in the tundra of Bethel. Here are 5 famous school shooters and what a day in their prison life looks like.
Other news today, 3 weeks after Nicholas Cruz was arrested for the mass shooting at the school in Parkland, Florida, he has been indicted on 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder.
February 14, 2018, the day 17 people lost their lives at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. The shooter, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, thought he'd become infamous, and he did. But what he didn't expect was the price: a life sentence in a concrete box, isolated from the world, with nothing but his own thoughts and the weight of what he'd done. Cruz's life behind bars began the moment deputies tackled him to the ground. He was found walking near the school, blending in with fleeing students. When officers pinned him down, he muttered something that would become central to his defense.
What's going on today, bro?
The demons, man.
Demons?
Voices.
Whether it was real or an act, Cruz was placed in isolation immediately. He wasn't just another inmate, he was a liability, high profile, dangerous, and target for other prisoners. Inside Broward County Jail, Cruz was housed in the infirmary. Alone, a single cell, constant surveillance. Deputies checked on him every 15 minutes. He slept often, ate little. And according to official reports, he displayed a blank stare, avoided eye contact, and appeared lost in thought. Andrew Bryant, a fellow inmate at the time, watched Cruz from across the infirmary. Bryant said Cruz looked scared, intimidated, like he knew everyone had a problem with him. And they did.
So like if I go to my window and I look, I could look like right where his cell was.
Bryant could see Cruz.
I don't know, I don't think he was looking at anybody, like just looking down and just like laying down looking at the roof.
3 days into his incarceration, something strange happened. After a visit with his lawyer, Cruz reportedly broke out in laughter. Then days later, he asked jail staff if he could read a Bible. The picture that emerged was inconsistent, withdrawn one moment, giggling the next. It painted a portrait of someone deeply unstable, or someone playing a role. 9 months after his arrest, Cruz attacked a jail guard. Sergeant Raymond Beltran had told him to stop dragging his sandals. Cruz responded by flipping him the middle finger, then charging. Cruz grabbed Beltran's taser. The weapon discharged, missing both of them. Beltran regained control and subdued Cruz, who was immediately placed in solitary confinement. Prosecutors would later use this incident as proof that Cruz remained dangerous, even behind bars. When Cruz finally entered a courtroom to plead guilty, victims' families hoped for the death penalty. Instead, the defense offered a deal: life without parole. They argued Cruz was mentally ill, that his brain had been damaged in the womb by his biological mother's drug and alcohol use, that he was, despite everything, broken.
I'm sorry, and I can't even watch TV anymore. And I'm trying my best to maintain my composure, and I just want you to know I'm really sorry. And I hope you give me a chance to try to help others.
But the families weren't buying it. The trial dragged on for months. The defense presented Cruz's troubled childhood, adoption, developmental delays, behavioral issues, and a lifetime of missed red flags. Psychiatrists testified that Cruz lacked effective and performative empathy. He could understand emotions intellectually, but he couldn't feel them or act on them. To the prosecution, Cruz was cold, calculated, and manipulative. To the defense, he was irretrievably broken. In October 2022, the jury recommended life without parole. 9 jurors voted for death, but it wasn't unanimous. And under Florida law, that meant life. Families were devastated, outraged. Some expressed hope that Cruz would suffer in prison. that inmates would give him the same mercy he showed their children. On November 2nd, 2022, Cruz was formally sentenced. Judge Elizabeth Scherer handed down 34 consecutive life sentences, one for each victim murdered or wounded. She specified that each sentence would run one after another. No possibility of parole, ever.
All right, he's remanded to the custody of the Department of Corrections. And he's to be given credit in the amount of 1,718 days time served.
Cruz was then escorted out of the courtroom in chains, surrounded by deputies, and transferred to the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections. Inside Florida's prison system, Cruz's reality is harsh. He's likely in protective custody, separated from the general population. His cell is small, 9 feet by 12 feet, with a metal bed, a sink, and a toilet. No air conditioning, no privacy. For 1 hour a day, he's allowed into an outdoor cage to exercise, alone. Corrections experts say inmates like Cruz are what they call institutional liabilities. If he's injured or killed, the political fallout is immense, so isolation is mandatory. But even in isolation, prison is unpredictable. Secrets don't stay hidden. Other inmates know who he is, what he did. Officers aren't always sympathetic, and violence, whether from guards or other prisoners, is always a possibility. Cruz will spend the rest of his life in this cycle. Wake up, eat, stare at concrete walls, sleep, repeat. No visitors, no future, no escape.
A series of horrific sketches that depict shootings, Satan, and more while in jail. Cruz also wrote the numbers 666 on the wall with his blood, as well as the phrase, "I do not want life, please help me go to death row."
He was placed on suicide watch shortly after. Even now, Cruz remains under constant observation, not for his safety, but to ensure he serves every single day of his sentence. For the families of the 17 people he killed, justice will never feel complete. But knowing Cruz will die in prison, forgotten, isolated, and stripped of everything, is the only closure the system could offer. But Cruz's isolation isn't unique. Another shooter now spends his days measured by lockdowns, silence, and constant supervision.
That's school shooter Ethan Crumbley at a shooting range practicing with the gun he used in the massacre just days later.
November 30th, 2021. Oxford High School. A 15-year-old walked out of a bathroom with a 9mm handgun and opened fire. He killed 4 students and wounded 7. The shooter, Ethan Crumbley. Today he's serving life without parole in a Michigan maximum security prison. And his daily reality is darker than most people imagine. The massacre was calculated. Crumbley didn't snap, he planned. His journal laid it all out. A checklist of weapons, targets, even the moment he'd surrendered to police.
4 things written by Ethan Crumbley on 2 of these pages, like, "I will tell close friends not to come the day of the shooting." He writes, "I have lost every hope of life." Also writes, "Help me, and I want to shoot up the school so badly." And that is just the start.
Hours before the attack, school staff found those drawings. A gun, bullets, the words "blood everywhere," and "the thoughts won't stop." His parents were called in. They sat across from him in the counselor's office. The gun was in his backpack the entire time. They never checked. They never took him home. And by lunch, he'd retrieved the weapon and started shooting. The attack itself was methodical. Surveillance footage showed him moving through hallways like he was back at the shooting range, leveling the gun, aiming, firing. He executed students point blank. One girl, already wounded, was shot again as he walked up to finish what he started. That's not a rampage. That's an execution.
Level the gun, like if you were at a gun range and practicing.
He choked up as he gave a harrowing.
When his parents finally confronted him at the police station, Ethan's only concern wasn't the lives he took. It was his cat, Dexter. He asked them repeatedly to take care of the animal. His mother broke down, asking him why. His response was chilling.
Why? Why?
Jennifer Crumbley couldn't process what she'd just witnessed. Her son showed no emotion, no remorse, nothing. December 2023. The judge handed down the sentence: life without parole. Ethan Crumbley became one of the youngest people in America to receive that fate. The judge called it what it was: terrorism. And he made clear, this wasn't about mental illness or a broken home. This was about obsession, planning, and a deliberate choice to kill.
Terrorism causing death. The sentence of the court is that the defendant shall serve life without the possibility of parole, credit for 8 days served.
His motive? Notoriety. Crumbley wanted to be remembered. He wrote about going down in Michigan history as the biggest school shooter. He researched previous attacks. He studied police response times. He even mapped out the school layout to maximize casualties. Every detail was intentional.
Did this for notoriety. And he wanted to go down in history as the biggest school shooter in Michigan history. The court cannot ignore the deep trauma the defendant caused to the state of Michigan, but in particular the Oxford community.
Shortly after his 18th birthday in April 2024, Crumbley was transferred to Oaks Correctional Facility, a maximum security adult prison in Manistee, Michigan. He's classified as Level 4, the highest security designation. And because of who he is and what he did, he's kept in protective custody. In the prison hierarchy, school shooters are the lowest of the low. Inmates who hurt don't last long in general population. Crumbley knows this. So does the prison system. His daily routine is brutal. Lights on at 5:30 a.m., no warning. Breakfast through a slot in the door. Powdered eggs, watery oatmeal, lukewarm coffee. Most of the day is spent alone in a cell roughly the size of a parking space. 1 hour of recreation if he's lucky, in a concrete box under surveillance. No social interaction, no normalcy, no future. Even behind bars, his behavior raised red flags. While awaiting sentencing, he misused a jail-issued tablet to search for violent and torture-related content. Prosecutors brought it up in court as proof he hadn't changed. The judge agreed. His obsession with violence continued even in custody. His parents didn't escape accountability either. Jennifer and James Crumbley were convicted of involuntary manslaughter, the first parents in U.S. history to be held criminally responsible for their child's mass shooting. They bought him the gun. They ignored his cries for help. They dismissed his mental health struggles. His mother laughed when he begged for therapy. His father told him to suck it up. Both parents received 10 to 15 years. They sat in the same courtroom during sentencing, the first time they'd been near each other in 2 years. They didn't speak. They didn't look at each other. Their marriage, like everything else, was destroyed by what their son had done.
Jennifer and James Crumbley sat there just 1 seat apart. It was the first time they have seen each other in 2 years.
Victim impact statements tore through the courtroom. Parents who lost children, students who survived, but would never be the same. One father spoke directly to the Crumbleys and said what everyone was thinking.
Of our children is on your hands too.
Ethan Crumbley is 19 now. He has no future, no family visits, no hope of release. His appeals have been denied. His legal team argues his age, his mental state, possible fetal alcohol syndrome, anything to get the sentence reduced. But the courts keep saying no. The crime was too deliberate, the victims too young, ending was too extensive. Mental health experts warn that life sentences for juveniles, especially in isolation, can cause permanent psychological damage, depression, anxiety, PTSD, even psychosis. But for the families of Madison Baldwin, Tate Meyer, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling, that suffering is justice. Ethan Crumbley will spend every day for the rest of his life in a prison cell. No graduation, no career, no relationships, no redemption. Just decades of concrete, silence, and the weight of 4 lives he took. In the next story, across states, the routine repeats. Cells, counts, isolation, yet age, remorse, and mindset shift inside the walls.
The brutal murder of Jeffrey Osborne and 6-year-old Jacob Hall is something the upstate will never forget. Both were killed back in 2016 after Jeffrey Osborne's son, Jesse, shot him before opening fire at Townville Elementary, ultimately killing little Jacob.
September 28th, 2016. 16-year-old walked into his father's home in Anderson County, South Carolina. What happened next set off a chain of events that ended with 2 people dead, 3 wounded, and a facing life behind bars. Jesse Osborne didn't just commit a school shooting that day, he killed his own father first. The sequence was calculated, methodical. After shooting 47-year-old Jeffrey Osborne 3 times as he sat in his recliner, Jesse kissed his rabbit and his 3 dogs goodbye. Then he took his father's truck, drove 3 miles to Townville Elementary School, his former school, and crashed through the fence onto the playground. 12 seconds. That's how long Jesse fired before his gun jammed. 12 seconds that killed 6-year-old Jacob Hall and wounded 2 other students and a teacher.
Osborne pled guilty to the murder of his father before opening fire at the school where he shot and killed 6-year-old Jacob Hall. He also received 30 years on the attempted murder charges of a teacher.
A volunteer firefighter tackled him before police arrived. In custody, Jesse gave investigators a lengthy confession. His reason? He was angry after being bullied. He'd been planning it for months, researching the Columbine shooting, discussing it online with people who encouraged him. Behind bars, Jesse Osborne's life became a study in contradictions. He was first held at the Greenville County Detention Center for nearly 3 years before trial. During that time, staff noticed something disturbing. Jesse wasn't showing remorse. He told psychiatrists the shooting still excited him when he thought about it, that he wouldn't take it back. Dr. James Ballinger, a psychiatrist who evaluated Jesse, described him as having a chilling sense of fun and eagerness when discussing shooting and torturing animals, bees, frogs, birds. Ballinger testified that Jesse was almost gleeful when describing the Townville shooting. But there was another side to Jesse's story. His half-brother testified about the abuse Jesse suffered at home. Their father, Jeff, drank daily and had a violent temper when intoxicated. Ryan Brock told the court Jeff would make Jesse pull down his pants and hit him with a belt. "I could hear the screams all the way through the house," Brock said. Jesse's bedroom was in the basement, dark and isolated. His mother described a home broken from top to bottom. After being expelled from middle school for bringing a machete and knife to protect a bullied autistic girl, Jesse became increasingly withdrawn, spending most of his time in his room communicating only with people online. One psychologist, Dr. Donna Schwartz-Maddox, described Jesse as a damaged child returned to a damaged home. She testified he showed signs of trauma, depression, and needed specialized treatment. Another psychiatrist said Jesse was possessed intermittently, his body jerking, feeling and acting differently. The prosecution wasn't buying it. Their experts diagnosed Jesse with conduct disorder, a pattern of violating the rights of others. They noted he'd researched mental illnesses online, including autism and schizophrenia, suggesting he was trying to fake symptoms. And there was the attempted escape. Jesse and another inmate were caught trying to dig through a jail wall. In November 2018, Jesse pleaded guilty. No trial, no jury. Just a hearing to determine if a 4-year-old boy deserved to die in prison. The sentencing hearing in November 2019 was brutal. 3 days of emotional testimony. Teachers described students asking if someone was coming back to shoot them. Jacob Hall's class of 31 kids was down to 13. Many families had pulled their children out or homeschooled them.
In addition to me being on the playground during this horrific event, my 4-year-old daughter was two doors down in her kindergarten classroom. I have not only had my emotional issues to overcome, but I also have to be a mom and a daughter.
Megan Hollingsworth, the teacher whose class was on the playground that day, said the emotional effects were worse than the physical ones. Her 4-year-old daughter was in kindergarten 2 doors down when the shooting happened. He should be punished to the max extent, she told the judge. Then came the family members.
I wholeheartedly forgive Jesse. I forgive, but I don't forget. I know that that's what Jacob would want me to do.
And Jesse himself spoke for the first time.
Your Honor, I'd just like to say, I know at this point it's going to seem hollow, but I'm not saying it's to get a lesser sentence. I would just like to say, sorry to my family for everything I've done.
Judge Lawton McIntosh said he never imagined he'd be sentencing a teenager to life in prison for something this horrific. But the judge was clear. If Jesse had stopped with his father, this would be a different story. He didn't.
The sentence is going to be life in prison for murders. It's going to be 30 years on the attempted murders. Attempted people.
Life in prison for murder, plus 30 years for attempted murder. No possibility of parole. Jesse was 17 when he was sentenced. He was transferred to Kirkland Correctional Institution in Columbia, where South Carolina houses its youngest adult offenders. The facility is designed for inmates under 21, serving as a buffer between juvenile detention and the general population. But Jesse's sentence created a problem. A life sentence without a number doesn't allow an inmate to participate in certain Department of Corrections programs, education, vocational training, or rehabilitation courses. In September 2023, a court amended his sentence to a fixed 75 years for each murder count. It's still effectively a life sentence, but now it's a countable one. According to court records, he's been declining the mental health treatment the Department of Corrections has offered him. He essentially isolates himself in his cell, avoiding stressors that could complicate his mental health. Today, Jesse Osborne is 22 years old. He's been in prison for 8 years. He's moved between facilities, Kirkland, Turbeville, Lieber, and back to Kirkland. According to South Carolina Department of Corrections records, he's currently at Kirkland Correctional Institution. His daily routine is the structured monotony of long-term confinement, wake-up calls, meals through slots, limited recreation time. Jesse is housed with other young offenders, separated from the general population due to his age and the nature of his crime. He has access to the prison law library. He can send and receive mail. He can have visitors, though it's unclear if anyone comes. His defense attorney has filed appeals, arguing that sentencing a 14-year-old to die in prison violates constitutional protections against cruel and unusual punishment. But the legal system has been clear. Jesse Osborne planned to kill 50 or 60 people. If he got lucky, he told an online chat group, maybe 150. He researched the Columbine massacre. He packed his backpack with ammunition. He kissed his pets goodbye and drove to a school full of children. He didn't stop because he wanted to. His gun jammed. The Townville community has tried to heal. A memorial was erected for Jacob Hall. His family established foundations in his name. The school underwent security upgrades, but the trauma remains. Jesse Osborne's life in prison is defined by what he took. 2 lives, the innocence of a school, the sense of safety for hundreds of children. He's 22 now, but he'll spend the rest of his life behind razor wire and concrete. A who showed the world what happens when isolation, abuse, and rage collide with a loaded gun and a playground full of children. He asked for hope. The judge gave him 75 years to think about what hope meant to the people whose lives he destroyed. Osborne entered prison as a child, but for the young boy in the next story, decades inside mean routine became life itself.
Kip Kinkle opened fire in the Thurston High School cafeteria 20 years ago today, killing 2 and wounding 25 others. Kinkle had killed his parents the day before.
His name was Kip Kinkle, and more than 20 years later, he's still behind bars, serving 111 years without parole at Oregon State Correctional Institution. No release, no second chance, just decades of the same walls, the same routine, and the absolute certainty that nothing will ever change, locked in a system designed not to rehabilitate, but to contain forever. Kinkle's daily routine inside OSI follows the strict, rigid structure of maximum security incarceration. Mornings start early, 5:30 a.m. wake-up calls, followed by mandatory head counts. Breakfast is served in the housing unit, typically bland. Institutional food eaten in silence or under the watchful eyes of correctional officers. After breakfast, inmates like Kinkle are assigned to work details or educational programs. Kinkle, notably, earned his GED while serving time at McLaren Youth Correctional Facility before being transferred to OSI at the age of 25. He later earned a college degree and became a certified yoga instructor, small achievements that don't change his sentence but help him structure his time. Work assignments for long-term inmates are often maintenance-related, laundry, kitchen duty, or janitorial work. Movement is heavily restricted. Kinkle can't just walk from one part of the facility to another. Every step is monitored, every door controlled. Meals, recreation time, showers, all scheduled down to the minute. Visitation is limited, and for someone like Kinkle, whose crime remains infamous, social contact is even more constrained. He has no family left. He killed his parents. And his sister Kristen has moved on with her life, though she's spoken publicly about his mental illness and the tragedy. Recreation might mean an hour in a concrete yard, walking in circles under guard. No sports leagues, no casual gatherings, just isolation punctuated by surveillance. His mental health history was a major part of his trial and sentencing. Defense experts argued that Kinkle's illness drove his actions, that he was hearing voices commanding him to kill. Prosecutors countered that he was still legally competent, that he knew what he was doing, and that his confession proved it. At sentencing, Kinkle apologized. What he said in court was brief, but it mattered.
From this point in the breezeway.
Wounded students flood into hospitals, parents search for their children. Stories of Kinkle and warning signs begin to spin.
That apology didn't change his sentence. The judge made it clear. This wasn't about rehabilitation. This was about protection, keeping society safe from someone deemed too dangerous to ever release. But here's what life without parole actually means. It's not a countdown. There's no release date circled on a calendar. No parole board to prepare for. No hope of clemency. Just decades of the same walls, the same routine, and the same certainty that nothing will ever change. And because of who he is, because his name is tied to one of the most notorious school shootings in Oregon history, his prison experience is different from most inmates. His infamy follows him. Guards know his name. Other inmates know his name. Some want to hurt him, others want to exploit him, and some just want to stay away. That notoriety creates a secondary sentence. He's not just a lifer, he's a school shooter lifer. That label brings constant scrutiny, constant isolation, and constant risk. But Kinkle hasn't just existed. He's tried to change, tried to become something other than the 15-year-old kid who destroyed so many lives. He's led programs for other inmates. He's mentored younger prisoners. He's become what some would call a model inmate. He stays out of trouble. He follows the rules. He's participated in restorative justice discussions, though he's never been allowed to speak directly to his victims.
While this prosecution was successful in doing what needed to be done, namely forever protecting society from Mr. Kinkle.
Kinkle is now in his 40s. He's spent more than half his life behind bars. He'll likely spend the next 40 or 50 years there too, if he lives that long. The victims of his crime live with their own sentences. Some still struggle with physical injuries. Others carry emotional scars that never fully heal. The community of Springfield still remembers. The memorial outside Thurston High School still stands.
Outside Thurston High, a wall of flowers quickly grew into a memorial to the victims. Today, a permanent memorial placed at the southwest portion of the Thurston campus. A plaque reads, "May we all understand the life-changing impact of violence, and may this memorial extend the comfort, strength, and hope that comes from a caring community, state, and nation."
Further north, another shooter's prison life unfolds differently, less notorious, but marked by violence, solitude, and time's slow erosion.
In 1997, when he was 16, Evan Ramsay walked into his school in Bethel, Alaska, pulled out a 12-gauge shotgun, and murdered 2 people.
February 19th, 1997. The morning started like any other for 16-year-old Evan Ramsay. He got dressed, walked downstairs in his foster home, and grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun from an unlocked gun rack. Then he slid it down his pants and caught the school bus to Bethel Regional High School. By the time the tardy bell rang 15 minutes later, 2 people were dead, and Alaska had witnessed its first and only school shooting. But unlike most school shooters who plan mass carnage, Ramsay's original intent was far simpler. He wanted to die.
My main objective of going into the high school was to check out. To check out? Yeah, to commit.
That morning in the school commons area, students saw Ramsay walk in with the shotgun. Some thought it was a joke. Others figured it was connected to the ROTC program. Then 15-year-old Josh Palacios stood up and asked why Ramsay had brought a gun to school. Ramsay fired.
Josh grabbed his stomach and fell to the ground. I'm hit. And then I got up, I turned, and I ran back into the classrooms.
Art teacher Rainey Athanas heard the shots and ran toward the chaos instead of away from it.
I said, Evan, put the gun down. Put the gun down. You don't have to do this.
Had you ever seen him look like this?
Angry like that uncontrolled anger, I had never seen that. He was not in control at all.
But Ramsay wasn't done. Principal Ron Edwards emerged from his office to check on Josh. Ramsay turned and fired again, killing Edwards on the spot. The chaos continued until a police officer shot back. In that moment, everything changed for Ramsay. So what created Evan Ramsay? Alaska's only school shooter? The answer is as tragic as the crime itself. When Ramsay was 7 years old, his father, Don Ramsay, was sent to prison after a violent standoff at the Anchorage Times newspaper office. His mother spiraled into alcoholism. Child Protective Services removed Evan and his 2 brothers, and over the next 3 years, Ramsay lived in 11 different foster homes. The abuse went far beyond words. What he experienced in one particular home was nothing short of torture.
One of the more common punishments that I would receive were being, do you know what a bungee cord is? I would have to hold my hands out in front of me and he would whip my hands.
When Ramsay finally reported the abuse to authorities, nothing happened. The pattern repeated itself at school, where he faced relentless bullying, racial slurs for being half-native, insults, physical attacks. Ramsay did what his foster mother told him to do. He reported the bullying to school officials, but the harassment never stopped. Eventually, he stopped reporting it. The rage kept building with nowhere to go. By 1997, Ramsay had settled in with Sue Hare, the Lower Kuskokwim School District Superintendent, who also served as his legal guardian. She was kind, unlike some of his previous placements. But inside Ramsay, something had broken beyond repair. 2 weeks before the shooting, Ramsay planned his attack. But here's what makes it even more disturbing. He didn't plan it alone. 2 other boys, both 14 years old, knew about his plans. One of them taught Ramsay how to load and fire the shotgun. Another told him about the fame and notoriety that would follow. Other students were told to watch from the library balcony for something big. Not one of them came forward. The morning of the shooting, Ramsay believed he understood what would happen. He'd spent countless hours playing the violent video game Doom, where you could shoot characters multiple times before they die. He thought real life worked the same way. But what Ramsay expected most was that after he fired the gun, everyone would sit down and listen to him. He thought he'd finally have an audience for all the pain and rage he'd been carrying.
100% sure that when I was in high school, after firing the gun, that the students and everybody would sit down and be still and listen to me.
Instead, everyone ran. Chaos erupted. And in those few terrible minutes, Ramsay destroyed multiple lives, including his own. Josh Palacios, the popular sophomore with the bright smile, died after emergency surgery in Anchorage. Principal Ron Edwards, a Marine veteran and devoted father with 2 children attending the same school, died at the scene. 2 other students were wounded. Hundreds were traumatized. Years later, one moment from the shooting still haunts Ramsay.
I remember Josh asked me why I shot him. I never looked at him. I actually ignored him.
Ramsay was tried as an adult and convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. Judge Mark Isaac Wood sentenced him to 210 years in prison. On appeal, the sentence was reduced to 198 years. He'll be eligible for parole in 2066 when he's 82 years old. But even Ramsay knows the truth about that possibility.
Do you think there's actually a parole board that would let somebody out after serving 66 years in prison? I don't believe so.
For 2 decades now, Ramsay has lived behind bars. He spent 10 years in private prisons outside Alaska, where low-paid guards mostly left inmates alone. He didn't take anger management classes or rehabilitation programs for years. Eventually, he earned his high school diploma in prison. He's worked seasonal jobs, landscaping in summer, snow removal in winter. He has access to a television and pays for cable with his prison earnings. He gets a digital music player and buys heavy metal songs from a prison kiosk. Within his first 3 years inside, Ramsay got into a conflict with another inmate over a gambling debt, 4 candy bars. Ramsay filled a sock with batteries and attacked the prisoner. He spent 6 months in solitary confinement. Visitors are rare. Both of his parents died in 2005, within months of each other. He's lost touch with his brothers and desperately wants to reconnect. He gets letters from strangers, some wanting friendship, others making sure he's found Jesus, still others wanting to discuss his crime. His foster mother, Sue Hare, never visits or writes. She resigned from her job as superintendent the day of the shooting and never returned to her office, not even to clean it out. What Ramsay wanted most from his crime was simple. He wanted people to leave him alone. In a twisted sense, he got exactly what he wanted. But the infamy he was promised, the fame that would make people remember him, he realized early on how empty that promise was. Today, Ramsay is 44 years old. He's serving his sentence at Wildwood Correctional Center on the Kenai Peninsula. His hair is already going gray. He's now lived most of his life in prison. And while he insists he's not making excuses or blaming video games or anything else, he does have one message for those who want to prevent the next tragedy. He says adults need to pay closer attention to troubled kids, follow up with them, actually help them deal with the overwhelming emotions before they explode. He wishes desperately that back in 1997, just one kid had told him he was okay, that the bullying didn't define him, that he was liked. He believes that a single act of kindness might have changed everything.
Obviously, since that point, I've accepted where I'm at. I've accepted my life for what it is.
To the families of Josh Palacios and Ron Edwards, the families who lost the most that February morning, Ramsay has offered words that can never undo the damage.
The Palacios family and the Edwards family, they feel similar in nature. I'm sorry.
But whether those words mean anything is a question only those families can answer. For those who were there, for the families who lost loved ones, for the students who fled in terror, and for Evan Ramsay himself, February 19, 1997 never ended. It just keeps repeating, day after day, in the memories of the survivors and in the isolation of a prison cell, where a man will spend the rest of his life paying for 15 minutes of uncontrollable rage. These days behind bars aren't dramatic or redemptive, just repetitive hours, permanent confinement, and the quiet weight of choices that can never be undone.